and guests. My name is Ronel Blom. I'm the Dean of Regent Business School, and I would like to thank you for joining us on this troubled day in South Africa. You know, I think now more than ever, we need people to show leadership in our communities. So today's topic really takes on a much deeper meaning for me and a much greater importance than merely setting personal goals. We need to set big, hairy, audacious goals for our society and for our communities. The last few days has just been astonishing. And we need to stop and think, what happens if everything that I have worked for is destroyed? Where do I start again? And so I think really this conversation that we're going to have this morning is critically important, not for us as individuals only, but also for our communities. So today we really have an excellent lineup of people to help us to take this first step to setting those goals. I'd like to start off by reintroducing Ms. Cindy Norcott, who's a regular guest at our webinars. As you know, Ms. Norcott is a motivational speaker, business coach, and CEO of award-winning recruitment agencies, Pro Appointments and Pro Talent. In addition, she's the author of a book entitled How to Be Unstoppable. Sounds like something that we need at the moment. And I think it's well worth checking out. She's also the founder of the Robin Hood Foundation. Cindy is also a business person and entrepreneur of note. And I really can't wait to hear what she has to share in respect of this particular topic. Our second guest, Dr. Ridwaan Asvat, is also no stranger to our webinar series here on Regent Connect. Dr. Asvat is Operational Director at Regent Business School with more than a decade of experience in higher education management. He holds a PhD from the Northwest University with special focus on business systems and in private higher education. And he's disappeared off. Oh, hello. I was just going to invite him back on camera. And has a keen interest in technological skills development. Welcome, Dr. Asvat. Our third guest and our first speaker is Ms. Ronel, who is executive and leadership coach and consulting psychologist. Her area of expertise is on personal development analysis and plans. She has a wealth of experience in many industries, including public services, telecommunications, manufacturing, and retail, to name a few. She has agreed to join us this morning to introduce our prizes for today. We have the prize of a personal development analysis assessment and feedback, which will be awarded to 3 people who are going to be selected randomly from our participants taking part today. And as usual, the winners will be announced on Regent Connect within a week of the webinar. So it now gives me great pleasure to hand over to Ms. Ronel, who will give you the details. Corlia?
Many thanks, Dr. Blom, for the introduction, and good morning to everybody. It's like Fatima said earlier, we are having a full house, and I'm very happy to see. And I saw that some of the people in the chat says it's a welcome distraction to have this. I'm also looking forward to seeing how to set proper goals and those big, hairy, audacious goals that Ridwaan and Cindy is going to talk about. I'm also studying myself at this point in time, and I'm wondering if there are some people who are maybe seeing themselves in the story that I'm going to tell about myself, where, you know, in the beginning of each year when I study, I think to myself, my goodness, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to enjoy this. This is what I want to do at the end of my studies. This is what I'm going to do every day. This is what I'm going to do every month. And this is how I'm going to break it down. And I start off with a big bang. And then lo and behold, after a few weeks, then everything just dissipates. And I wonder to myself, what is wrong with me? Why am I struggling so much to stick to my goals? I don't know how to set them properly. Am I stupid? What is going on with me that, you know, I'm doing this to myself? And Signs of Change, the company that I'm working for and that I'm, explaining about today, is honored to sponsor the 3 lucky recipients with a behavior analysis called the PDA, or Personal Development Analysis. This tool is a very quick online assessment that can be completed in less than 20 minutes. And at the end of this result, when you get your result, you will see how do you think about things? How do you communicate to others? How do you communicate to yourself? Understanding and having that self-awareness will help you to understand, how do you think? What motivates you? What will make you more likely to achieve your goals? And companies who work with the PDA, they can help their employees and people who work in teams to understand exactly how to work with each other and to communicate better. Now, you would know from the story that I told that I've got a certain style, a certain behavioral style. I'm a kind of person who likes to set very ambitious and lofty goals, but I sometimes lose motivation to complete the goals because I don't see an immediate result. And my style is very risky. I like to make risky decisions. I'm very impatient. I drive myself really quickly. I do many things simultaneously. So sometimes when I sit down and I want to start studying, I start almost interrupting my own thoughts by thinking, maybe I should go and unpack this cupboard. Maybe I should go and check, how far the washing is. Maybe I should go water the garden. And my mind is racing everywhere. As soon as you start understanding who you are from this personal development analysis, you would be able to understand how to work with the goals and understand what Cindy and Ridwaan is going to explain, how to set the goals. Now, there are also extroverted individuals, people who like to be with people, and they harness the enthusiasm when they're setting their goals. But sometimes the optimism is in a sense almost interrupting them, and they visualize themselves finishing before they even started. And then we have our colleagues and friends with a patient, relaxed style. And those individuals want a step-by-step direction and clearly laid out plans on how to set out their goals. But sometimes they may lose sight of the goal because they're constantly getting ready and setting the plan and trying to get ready rather than getting started. And if you understand that you are one of those individuals, maybe when you get started, you will be unstoppable. And then obviously we have somebody else, some of the fourth kind of style that we're talking about are our analytical and reserved colleagues and friends. They want clear data-driven goals. But sometimes they focus too much on the specific numbers and the details instead of stepping back and say, okay, this is how far I've actually come at this point in time. I need to also sometimes celebrate and not just overanalyze what has happened at this point in time. It's therefore really important to understand what your drivers are and what motivates you to achieve those goals. Now, for the 3 lucky recipients, this personal development analysis that you can do online and you will receive a link to complete, takes about 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes to complete. And once you have completed the assessment, you and I will have a feedback session where we will talk not only about what motivates you, what's your style, what are your energy levels at this point in time like? Do you feel that you are being stressed in some form or way? How do people perceive your behavior that are external to you? Are there things that making you feel a little bit run down at this point in time? So we'll be talking about all of those things. So I'm looking forward to connecting with the winners and to provide each one with an hour's worth of feedback. Maybe just a little bit about Science of Change. Unfortunately, our CEO and owner, Cheryl McKinnon, couldn't attend today, but she sends her regards, and she will be attending in in a few weeks' time. Science of Change has been busy in the behavior analysis arena for the past 15 years. And although we are based in Durban, we have psychologists and consultants working in conjunction with us to deliver bespoke solutions to companies and individuals, not only in South Africa, but also in Botswana, Namibia, and Kenya. And we focus our solutions on talent identification and development of people, leadership development, individual and team coaching, and that is one of my passions, to get teams to move and to feel resilient and to focus on what they need to do and how to communicate better, how to understand each other. And one of the tools that we use will also be the personal development analysis. We also do job analysis and profiling and competency development. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity that we have today to be part of this webinar, and also for the people who are going to be the recipients of this tool. I'm looking forward to connecting to you. Thank you, Dr. Blom.
Thank you very much. It sounds fascinating, and the 3 lucky winners are going to have a huge value add. It sounds like it. Thank you very much for that, Kolia.
Thank you.
It now gives me pleasure to hand over to Cindy, which will address us. She will address us on setting those big, hairy, audacious goals. Thank you very much, Cindy.
Hi there, everybody. It's really, really wonderful to be here. And I must say my first point of business is just to share my empathy and compassion for everyone who's going through some tremendous struggles and concerns and fear and anxiety. And some of you might be sitting here going, how on earth do I set a goal when I feel like I'm completely derailed? Or what's the use of setting a goal when Rome is burning? And I think, you know, this morning I got up at 4 this morning and I was just looking at my notes and I was writing. And you know, the funny thing about the human spirit is that we are driven in hope. And what I love about hope is we are fundamentally wired to want to believe that tomorrow is better than today. We are designed. I mean, Kolia is telling us how she is studying year after year. You know, some people might say, stop, as you were a soldier, you're doing fine, you know, and she's wired to go, I want to be better. I want to, and I think this is the fundamental human condition, that each one of us is actually wired to want to progress. And, you know, I think looking back, I love that quote, remember when you were praying for what you have now. Sometimes we don't realize how far we've come. And for many of us, it was a goal we set. Now, if you think about it, a lot of people don't set goals. They set New Year's resolutions. I don't know about you, but I know lots of people who tend to have a little bit too much champagne on New Year's Eve, and then they have decided they're going to lose 10 kilograms, they're going to be a better person, or they're going to make the world a better place. By the 7th of January, they've forgotten what they actually said they would do. And that's why I'm a big proponent of having written down goals for life. You know, they've done research. One of the top universities in England did research over a 20-year period where they asked the MBA graduates one question only. How many of you have got written down goals for your life? And they divided this class of MBA students. Now, bearing in mind, these are the cream of the crop of society. They divided them into 2 groups, those with a written down plan for their lives and those without. Those with a written down plan for their lives were only 10% of the class. Now, they followed the progress of these 2 distinct groups over a period of 20 years. And what they discovered at the end of 20 years, can you believe this, was that this little group of 10% outperformed the other 90% based on that one factor. I heard this many years ago. I've had my business for 27 years, and I've become an absolutely ardent fanatic about goal setting. I coach business people. And the one thing I sit with them, one of the first sessions I will do is, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And how do we create a bridge between where you are and where you want to be? And that bridge is actually called goal setting. And I would really encourage you, especially now, for some of you are sitting there feeling completely and utterly directionless. Do you know that motivation? Now, some of you might say, you might have told your colleagues or friends, I'm listening to a motivational speaker. The funny thing is I actually can't motivate you. I can't motivate you. Motivation comes from, not from a motivational speaker, but it comes from the word motive, which is the word locomotive, which means to go in a direction. So if any of you are feeling despairing right now, or you're feeling directionless, fearful, or anxious, maybe right now is not the time to write your bucket list or to make these big goals, but maybe now is the time to set some little micro goals. What can I do today to make today great? What can I do today to make myself proud? What can I do today to actually be a better version of myself. You know, these are small little things, because if you think about it, the big goals we set are never really big goals. I'll give you an example. About 6 years ago, I decided to climb Kilimanjaro, which is quite funny because I'm actually so terrified of heights. So if you think about it, do you put a goal like that on your to-do list? You don't actually do that. What we do is we put tiny little steps along the way. So the first step was to do cadence classes to strengthen my legs. The next step was to buy hiking poles. The next step was to organize the trip. So if you think about it, wherever we are is where we are. But wherever we're going is really a combination of small, seemingly insignificant steps that will take us to the right place, the right destination.
So Cindy, that's interesting you say that, because, you know, as you said, where we find ourselves now in all the chaos and disruption that's going on. And, you know, we can't plan for, we don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, you know, and that's where we are now. So that's interesting you say that, you know, the micro goal setting. I mean, that's I think all of us have that challenge. I know I have that challenge myself, you know. You get in the morning or you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to do all of this, and next thing, boom, you hit with a whole lot of stuff. So, you know, the question is, you know, we live in such a, how can I say, an instant gratification kind of world, you know. And, you know, I just think about my kids. I mean, they're at university and the likes and all of that. But like, they want the stuff now, like, you know, they want it as quick as possible. And you got to say, hold on, you got to work for these kind of things. This doesn't land on your lap, and you got to plan and goal set towards that. I mean, how does one, I mean, this is just a question. I mean, how does one talk to that type of audience to say, guys, hold on, these things do exist, yes, you know, and the society has changed so far, but hold on, you got to now sit back, take a step back. And I don't know whether this comes with age or whether you just get experience about this. Cindy, I'm not sure, Kolya, your experiences. I'm just kind of, you know, trying to wonder whether this comes with experience and being around and involved. And how do we inspire these new, the new generation of workers, if I may call them?
I think you're absolutely right. We do live in a very much an instant gratification society. And if you look at young people, our millennials, a lot of them, their idea of long-term is a 2-year plan. You know, so we might think long-term is when I, you know, in 15 years or when I retire. But for a lot of young people, when you say, what is your long-term plan? It's very, very hard for them to come up with a long-term plan. But one of the things I would encourage people is how do you get through your plan? Your plan, it requires sacrifice. It requires discipline. Discipline means giving up stuff. So we've got to be prepared to give up stuff in order to get the stuff that we really want. But most of us, as you said, Dr. Asvat, you know, you said every day you sit there, you've got all these goals, you've got all these items. We all mostly know what we want. A lot of the times we haven't been crystal clear, which is a problem. But a lot of the times we do know what we want, but we didn't write it down. And then what happens is the noise and chaos of life gets in the way. And then what happens is we end up, many of us are spending 38% of our working day issuing and receiving emails. Can you believe it? I mean,
Yes.
None of our job titles say issuer and receiver of emails, but there we are. So I think it's about putting those rocks in our diary. The thing that what is most important. So for instance, for me today, I believe it or not, even though my business is relatively quiet now that we're in a state of absolute crisis, I was sitting there going, what is mission critical today? If this one thing happens, what will push the lever the most? And I think a lot of people don't do that. So a lot of people are actually good at setting goals, but then they're not good at planning. Or if they are good at planning, they're not good at prioritizing. So everything's important. So I sit there, I'm overwhelmed. I've got 100 things to do. I don't know if any of you know that feeling. And then I get absolutely paralyzed by all the things that I have to do. Instead of going, okay, if I were to choose one thing today, what is the one thing that will push the lever the most? What is the one thing that will take me closer to my goals? And the one thing I learned years ago from coaching was that absolutely every action we take either takes us closer to our goals or away. Now let's look at where you are sitting today. All the attendees on this call, a lot of you are sitting there feeling completely stuck, overwhelmed, anxious, numb, paralyzed. I understand because I'm feeling those things too. The temptation in each of us is to just sit there and wallow or to distract ourselves from our pain. How do we do that? We go to social media and we go to the TV and we watch the news, and we almost like little addicts waiting for another snippet of something just to give us a little boost, because we actually don't know what to do. But imagine if we said, it doesn't matter what happens, I will not be derailed. I've got a crystal clear picture of my future. I know exactly who I am and what I want. And then I'm going to systematically work through that process of achieving goals every single day. I might not shake the world today, but I'm going to shake my world. And every day I'm going to take an action that takes me closer to where I want to be. So I think this ability
Cindy,
to give up stuff takes time. It does take time and maturity.
Absolutely. And I think there's a relevant question here in the chat. So what is his name? Reinhard. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, from Reinhard. Reinhard is saying the current challenge for me is setting a goal. And then during the goal, I feel that this is no longer what I want. Okay. Or I feel that the outcome of the result is way out of my reach. Then I stop and then I look at a new goal. So what would you say to that?
Reinhard's actually discussing a couple of problems that are quite common, actually. The one thing is he said he gets a goal and then it's no longer what he wants. So the first question to ask ourselves when we set a goal, is this my goal? So let's just say I'm inspired by Corlia and I think, that's it, I'm going to get my MBA. That's it, I've always wanted my MBA. The thing with the goal is the benefit of the goal has to be worth the sacrifice. Now, I might say, well, this is crazy. I'm running a successful business. I'm running a charity. I'm a busy motivational speaker. I've got a demanding family life. Wait a minute. If I were to put my life on hold for 3 years, I can get this title. I might say, for me in this season, it's not worth it. So sometimes we set goals because, you know what, I would love everyone to know that I have an MBA. But the point is, how will I feel if I get that goal? Maybe it's not my goal. Maybe it's not something that actually I'm that passionate about, because you've got to be pretty passionate to give up the stuff you love every day to do that thing. And then the other thing that Reinhard said was, sometimes don't believe that I can do it. Now, that's such a common thing. So many of us are not setting goals, or we're not setting big, hairy goals because we lack confidence. We don't believe we can do it. So I think the thing is to work on our confidence. How do we do that? We set smaller goals. We set smaller, manageable goals, and we achieve them. Dr. Blom, you can imagine, I'm so scared of heights. When I finished summiting Kilimanjaro, I remember coming down the mountain, sitting in the vehicle, taking us back to hotel. And I remember thinking, if I can do that, I can do anything. And that's what we owe to ourselves. We owe ourselves those. We don't have to do them every week or every day. Our lives would be so exhausting and stressful. Yeah. But we owe them in our lifetime to put those little milestones and those goals that make us feel truly alive. When you think, oh my gosh, if I can do that, I'll be so proud. And so many of us let ourselves off the hook. We stop before we're proud, and we set a micro goal that we know we can achieve. And I'll give you an example. I'm in sales. Last year, I billed 100,000 Rand a month, and I go, this year, my goal is 105. Is that really a big, hairy goal? And so often we're playing small. I think that's a big, big problem with society. And then, you know what we do? We let ourselves off the hook. Firstly, we don't tell anyone what our goal is, and then we buy our own excuses. And there's a saying, people are defined by their excuses.
So Cindy, that's interesting you say that, because I think, we've said a lot, but, I'm looking at some of the chats. Everybody is saying, so how do we do this thing? How do we actually set these goals, and what should we do? What are the practical, if I may put it, practical steps that one can actually, say, okay, right, I'm going to sit down today, I'm going to take a piece of paper, and this is what I'm going to do. So how do I do this,
Dr. Asvat, I think today is the perfect day to do this. I'll tell you why. So many of us are feeling quite down in the dumps. The best way to get out of being in the dumps is to create our own direction. So let's start with your wheel of life. A lot of people are saying, well, I'm actually uninspired. I don't feel excited about anything. But a lot of people don't know what goals to set because they've never been taught and they don't have a mentor who encourages them. So I'm going to just share with you, if you look at your wheel of life, so let's look at your personal life. You might say, gosh, you know, am I in shape? Am I healthy? What is my physical life? What is my spiritual life? What is my emotional life? Do I need help in any area? In which area am I playing small? In which area am I not proud? Which is an underdeveloped area that's holding me back? That could be your personal life. In that space, you could also look at your relationships. You know, Malcolm Gladwell's my favorite author, and he reckons each one of us has 12 humans. If they were to die, we'd be gutted. Well, how are my relationships with those 12 humans? Remember, 90% of your happiness comes from your relationships. So I can get, if I set a goal for my relationships, a goal could mean, okay, I'm married. Once a month, I'm going to do a date event with my husband. I'm going to plan it. I'm not going to wait for him. I'm going to plan it. It could be, you know what, I don't see my mom every day, but I'm going to phone her once a week. It could be, I've got family overseas, and I'll connect with them once a month. This is intentional. Now, some of you might say, well, that sounds scripted. That sounds cold and calculated. Let me tell you, when it's on the plan, it gets done. It's better than waiting for the feeling to go, oh, I miss my mom, to do that, you know, or to, gee, I haven't spoken to my family. So for me, I even have social goals. How many social events, how many times in a month I will actually meet up with friends. I do things like beach walks with friends, a walkie-talkie where you walk and then you go and have a coffee afterwards. And, you know, it's crazy, but this year I've probably done 75 social events already in a pandemic, not with hundreds of people, but one-on-one, connecting with people that I love. Then you look at your family. Now, right now, some of you might say, that's a goal I can work on because I'm working from home or there's no work or whatever it is. How's your family? How's your family life? Maybe one of your goals is to eat at the table. It's to have, maybe one of your goals is not to have technology for an hour at night or to have tech-free Sundays. You know, what are those? Are you a fun family? You know, have you set combined goals as a family? Our family, have you set a mission statement? These are our top 5 values in our family, and this is how we live. It could be your career. And many of you on this call, I understand, are studying through Regent or have studied or, you know, are obviously interested in your personal development, which I think is an amazing way to catapult yourself to the next level of your career. What are you doing to grow your career? Are you reading the right books? And also, I would like to challenge you, if you're reading and reading and reading and every book is amazing, how's your life changing? You know, read and implement, read and implement. Even today, don't attend another webinar until you've taken something that you could say, okay, this is something I'll implement. What TED Talks are you watching? You know, I had a goal to be an international speaker, and one of my goals was actually to deliver a TED Talk, which I did in 2019. And I can tell you how proud I was having done that. You know, when they called me to say, would you like to do a TED Talk? Let me tell you, I was like, do I want to do a TED Talk? Hell yeah, it's on my bucket list. We've also got financial goals. If you're in debt, how are you going to get out of debt? Do you have a budget? Do you know how much you spend? Is there a way that you can increase your sales or increase your earnings? Is there a way you can save more? You know, I mean, these are goals. You know, a lot of people go, well, you know, it depends on what happens out there. No, it doesn't. It depends on what happens in here and here and here. Head, heart, hands. You know, so many of us are outsourcing our power to other people. Your community goals. I mean, I head up a charity. We do feeding programs. We host conferences. We build creches. Every year we set goals. Every year my goal is to do at least 36 to 48 community projects a year. You know, and if you have a goal for it, guess what? You can manage it. We need to measure what we do. Then travel goals. I know right now those are terrible goals to have, but maybe you can have a short left goal, a goal to, you know, travel somewhere close by. Your hobbies. What are the things that you do that make you feel fully alive? Have you written down those hobbies? What are the things that you really, really, really want to do that make life fun? And then goals just because I can. These are the crazy goals, the kind of things that maybe don't fit into a category, but you might say, you know what, I've always wanted to swim with the sharks, or I've always wanted to do something crazy like go and see the Northern Lights, you know. Yeah. And I think that's really, really important.
Cindy, there are a couple of comments I think that, you know, are important to raise. I see Corlia has also been responding to some of them. Million is saying, how do I keep my energy level up in pursuit of my goal? as the environment around us sometimes drain our energy levels. I think that's a really important, especially in this particular context that we find ourselves in today. That's a really, really important question. So if you want to just respond to that.
Dr. Blom, I think I understand what the person is asking by that question. I think every single one of us on this call is questioning ourselves right now, going, you know, am I in the right country? Am I doing the right thing? Have I made the right decisions? You know, what if? I think we're all being plagued by those questions. And quite a normal response to an abnormal situation, right? But I think once the situation hopefully normalizes, we'll hopefully be in a position where we won't feel derailed by external circumstances. And you know, sometimes it takes a crisis to look at your life to go, I'm going in the wrong direction. And that's also okay if you are, to say, listen, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to turn around. But I think to keep ourselves going for the long marathon of life, I think it's so important to write down our goals, write down our personal mission statement or purpose, write down our top 5 values that we will live by. And then what I do every single year, at the end of the year, I do a process which takes about a week, about an hour or 2 a day for a week. And I look back on the year, my achievements, my disappointments, what I learned from them. And then I start creating new goals for the next year. And the question I ask myself in the first week of January every year, and I've done this for 25 years, is I say, what would I like to say about myself at the end of December this year that I can't say today? So imagine we're all doing this, but right now in July going, gosh, am I going in the right direction? Do I even know what I want anymore? I'm feeling distressed and demotivated and negative, and that's okay. That's actually okay. But how do I see my family improving over the rest of the year? What do we need? What do we need? What do I need to do? And remember, there's 3 questions to ask ourselves if we want change. What do I need to stop doing because it's not working for me? So in some of it, I know people who say, I'll give you an example. I was coaching a young lady who was in an admin role, and she said, Cindy, I'm depressed. She said, I'm not doing anything. We worked out that she was spending 4 hours a day on Instagram, watching other people live their lives.
Oh my goodness.
Looked at it. So guess what I said? Get off Instagram. Guess what? She found 4 hours. Sometimes we are subconsciously sabotaging ourselves. Some of us have the habit of telling everyone how busy we are. We're at the water cooler telling everyone. We spend an hour and a half every day telling people how busy we are. Some of us get onto social
here's
media
another one,
time.
which I think this is sorry, Cindy, I just want to jump in because there's somebody asked, how do I come back stronger when I fail to meet my goal? And I think it's crucial because so many of us actually do fail in our goals. And so what do we do then?
I think you answered the question. So what? You know, sometimes we fail. We are not machines. We are human. And sometimes I think we are incredibly hard on ourselves. I know some people who would not ever speak to their best friend the way they speak to themselves.
Yeah, true.
So what? Maybe the goal wasn't something you're passionate about. Maybe you've changed. Maybe your circumstances have changed. So what? Let it go. Forgive yourself for that. Just because you failed at something doesn't mean you're a failure. You could also turn it around and go, okay, I see it as failure, but what did I learn? How have I come out stronger and wiser? So I think it's so easy to reframe. You know, it is not helpful at all to go, I failed at this. We don't collect failures. We collect stamps, we collect other things, but not failures.
Fabulous, thanks.
You make an interesting point on that, because if you look at that, it's about, you know, if you look around you, I mean, you look at, I mean, you know, we all want to quote all the big shots that are out there, you know, your, what you call his name, Elon Musk and all of those kind. But if you take it down to a more lower level, I mean, all of us have those. I mean, even if you take Jobs, for example, I mean, he got knocked down and he picked himself up and he lost some money and whatever it is. And I give you a practical example of what I talk about. I had the fortunate privilege to work with our founder, Professor Yusuf Karodia, you know, who I worked with. And there were many times, you know, when we went into a venture where we lost a whole lot of money, right? And what happened was he wasn't fazed by it. I mean, we were like up in arms. I mean, like, come on now, we lost this money and like, what the hell are we going to do? And, you know, whatever. He said, okay, let's take a step back. Let's find where we are. And I can tell you, it took us to another level of understanding. And now when we get into any opportunities, we're a little bit more mindful of what could go wrong and what should we do. So talking about the measurement issue, and it's very interesting, Cindy. I mean, you may have read something as well that if you write something and you like kind of knock it off the list, you actually, it does something to the brain and the mind where you feel relaxed, like, yeah, I've achieved, I've done this, I made it happen, right? So I think I find that, I'm going to write a whole other list and then I reflect at 5 in the afternoon or whatever it is and I knock it off or highlight it and I say, oh, wow, I did 10 things this week today, you don't realize it. So that could be, another, how can I say, a mental thing. But, the one more other aspect was in this whole goal setting, we always talk about the emotional quotient and the spiritual and all of that. I mean, the spiritual and the emotional also has an impact. I don't know if you bring that into some of your programs or how you deal with that.
Absolutely. So so just, a couple of things about the goal setting process. We do need to have measurements. When you speak about the spiritual and emotional quotient, obviously, if we are in a dark space, if we are going through some terrible troubles, sometimes we are not in a position to lift ourselves up in that state. Sometimes we have to get through that space so that we can lift ourselves up and get into the next space. So, I've had people come through to see me and they say, I need you to coach me in my business. I'm going through a terrible divorce. But you can see they're not actually even in the room. They are so emotionally distressed. So I think if somebody's going, I think it's like, if we're not even in survival mode, it's very hard to go, okay, I want to live my best life. Sometimes it is a case of, let me get through this patch, let me cope. And I think that really, really is important. We've got to also look at the situation we're in. And I see in one of the questions here, the one comment was, how do I even start when I've been through so much and I've lost things and and I would say that if I were in that position, I think the advice I would give, just because of what I know and what I've learned, is set small goals, set tiny goals, and reward yourself for them. So let's just use today. Some of you on this call might still be in your pajamas, no judgment, but you might be in your pajamas. You might be sitting there going, whatever I do, it makes no sense. Let's think about it. The secret of successful people, the Elon Musks, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Bill Gateses, they all were big proponents of certain similar principles. And one of them was daily habits. So what if you said, what would a winner do every day? I'm going to do what a winner would do. And we know that what the winners do. And there's a few basic things. So even if you said, I don't even want to set goals, I just want to live like a winner does, if that makes sense. I'm going to just try and do that for 2 weeks or a month. And I just want to build up my own integrity. I want to feel good in myself so that I know that when I do set that goal to run that marathon or to write that book or whatever, that I feel like I'm the person who deserves success. So habits are things like early to bed. I know, crazy, hey? Early to rise. What are you eating? Are you eating sugar? If you are eating everything that's bad for you, you're going to have sketchy energy and you're going to attract it. What are you drinking? If you're drinking a bottle of vodka every night, you might not be inspired. You might find that you're so dehydrated that you can't think and you're anxious. If you're dehydrated, are you drinking 6 or 7 glasses of water? Are you taking vitamins? Are you exercising? They say sitting is the new smoking. Some people are sitting 13 to 15 hours a day. Yes. Get up, move. Can you do at least half an hour exercise every single day? Vitamin D. So many of us are depressed, but we live in a country with beautiful sunlight. Get out there and spend half an hour a day. What are you reading? You are what you read. Who are you spending time with? You need positive people. Limit your exposure to TV, to stuff that reduces your energy, like social media. When you do go on those things, time yourself. Give yourself half an hour and then get off. It's amazing when you time yourself. Before you know it, that alarm goes on and you can't believe it, how quickly time flies. So many of us are literally sabotaging our own success by having habits that don't serve us. They don't serve winners. And if we want to be a winner, we need to, I love that saying, successful people do the things that unsuccessful people don't do. That's simple, isn't it? Yeah.
But you see, but Cindy, there's another aspect, and we, it's this whole aspect of visualization, the end in mind, that kind of principle where
Absolutely.
you kind of say to yourself, okay, so I want to build this business, or I want to achieve this goal, and you know what, I want to buy this car or whatever else I want to do, and you start that process of visualizing yourself in that scenario and whatever. Unfortunately, in the last 2 days, that's been over visualized, but like for yourself, you look at the end in mind. Where do you see yourself? 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I know it's a long, people say, well, don't look that far, but time catches up with you so quickly. Before you know it, it's 10 years later, that type of thing. So something for, to talk about, but then just on the other side, I've been doing some reading about what the world of work looks like, in the next 20 years, 10 years, and whatever he says. And they're saying so many people or new jobs and new functions are going to come. But I think what you're saying is it's essentially the same principle for all of that, right? But I think it's, if we just take Branson for the example, we know what he did, flew up into first commercial flight and whatever. If he didn't have that vision of saying, guys, I'm going to do this thing, right? Okay, he had the money and whatever else, but it's about that passion, that vision that one has. So something for us to, I don't know how it probably fits into the whole goal setting thing as well, Cindy.
Absolutely. And how did he have that vision? He was inspired. Branson was inspired. How was he inspired? Well, you know what? He had a lifetime of setting crazy goals. He also hung around with other inspired people. So, we don't attract what we want in life. We attract what we are. So if I'm inspired, I attract inspired people. So, how do we do it? How do we attract? Because if somebody says, well, everyone around me is negative, guess what? So are you, probably, so how do we need to change, and we need to sort of set higher standards for ourselves. And, how do you become inspired? Watch TED Talks, read autobiographies. There's a saying, if you want to know about the road ahead, find out from the man who's walking backwards. There are people who've walked the road ahead of us. We have mentors out there. We have business, we have society leaders. So those are the people we need to emulate and learn from. So, they are there already. We don't have to sit and go, oh gosh, what would an inspired person do? Watch a TED Talk, listen to a motivational video, go to a church service. There's so much inspiration out there if we just look for it and find it. And then, something I learned recently from Vishen Lakhani, I was blown away. But you know how years ago we used to always talk about affirmations? I am confident, I am successful. And he turned everything on its head and he said, we ask our subconscious, why? Why am I such a good problem solver? Why am I choosing to eat only things that are healthy for me? Why do I attract financial success? Why am I so upbeat and energetic and positive no matter what? Now imagine you say that every day. Your subconscious starts finding neural pathways. It creates them where it's trying to solve your problem that you've given it. And so often what's happening is we're not doing the work of asking ourselves those questions. We're not doing the work. So if I could encourage people, I would say we need to have a very crystal clear picture of what we want in life. As you said, Doctor, you were talking about begin with the end in mind. For many of us, we live in a very ageist society. The thought of thinking of ourselves 30 years older is quite depressing. But the thing is, begin your life as how you want to be remembered. So one day when I'm not on this earth anymore, what will people say? Will I leave a legacy? The people that matter, what will, am I living like that? Because so often we live as if there's a disconnect between now and the future. What I do today doesn't matter, but I have goals. I'll give you an example. I know people who, for instance, will tell me that in 5 years, I want to be a millionaire. I'll give you that example. Great, well, what are you doing now? And they look at me and no, I'm in my dead-end job. But how are you going to be a millionaire in 5 years' time if you don't have a plan? It doesn't, unless you win the lotto or you loot very carefully. I think the point is, we've got to have a connection between the two. And, you know, when we begin with the end in mind, what it means is we live our lives backwards almost. We know what the finishing line looks like, regardless of when it is. And you know what it is? That's the goal, that's the end, that's the purpose. But the road we choose is our values. That's the train tracks we live on. This is what I will and won't stand for. These are the things that make me so angry. These are the things that I will never compromise on. Those are our values. And then our goals can change along the way. I remember 20 years ago, I bought my dream house. 10 years ago, I bought my dream house again. Believe me, it was very different to the first house. So dreams change. I remember when I started my business, I wanted to earn the salary I earned, which was 2,500 Rand. These days, I don't want to earn 2,500 Rand. So I think give yourself permission to have your dreams change as you change. Have fun with it. A lot of people see goal setting as like an academic exercise. It's so boring. Nerds do it. Well, you know that saying, geek is the new cool. We want to become geeks now. We want to write things down. We want to challenge ourselves, and we want to be excited about these goals. So for me, a lot of my goals are exciting. They're fun. They're inspiring. And you know what I do? I told you about that year-end process where I look at my life and I set the goals. But I forgot a magic step that I think for me has been the silver bullet, if I could say. Every Sunday night, and I never speak on stuff I don't do. If I'm talking about something, it's because I do it, I practice it, I live it, I believe it. So every Sunday night, I take my goals file. It's a leverage file. I've got my plan for the year. I've got it into dividers for my business, my personal, my family, my charity. I've got them in 4 sections. And every Sunday night, I go through that whole file. It takes an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours. And I ask myself one question. What can I do this week to get closer to that goal? And those things are nothing fantastic. I do not earn a doctorate in a week. I do not change the world in a week, but it's little things. It's lots of little things. So the path to success is a progression of seemingly insignificant little micro steps. But you know what most of us are doing? We're not doing the steps. We see a goal as overwhelming. Oh, I have to get my degree. It's overwhelming. Or I have to, you know, go through this internship, or I have to get out of debt. It's overwhelming. So guess what? I procrastinate on it, because everybody procrastinates on something they fear or they don't like doing. It's normal. It's a human condition. Don't berate yourself. It is what it is. So if you fear it, how do I get over the fear? If I don't understand it, how do I get somebody to guide me through the process, or how do I get support? But don't let the fear stop you. And then I meet so many people who go, but Cindy, who am I? I'm nobody. And it always brings me back to Oprah. Oprah was this very poor young girl who had nothing really to recommend her, but she had within her drive and a determination and a spirit, you know, and she started off, everybody who's a somebody started off as a nobody, you know, and I think it's a combination of those successful habits that I spoke about. Then the other thing I alluded to just now is public declaration. So now let's just say we have a crazy goal. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I decided I was going to run the London Marathon, which was fantastic, except I'd never run a marathon before. And I was unfit and injured. I arrived at London. I raised the second highest amount in the world for Save the Rhinos with my measly Rand. I hosted some fundraisers, and I arrived on that starting line completely undertrained. But the thing is, I had told everyone I was going to do it. Now, the other thing that motivated me is I wrote a book called How to Be Unstoppable. Okay, I wrote it. It's a best-selling book. And while I was running, the thought crossed my mind, imagine how embarrassed I would be if I had to stop whilst doing the London Marathon, and when you've written a book called How to Be Unstoppable, that would be so embarrassing. And sometimes we need that. We need to have a consequence, something that would make us feel, you know what, I will not give up. And I think too often in life, we give up too early. We don't like hard. Well, hard, who said hard is bad? Sometimes hard stuff makes us. I mean, we've all been through a terrible experience in life sometimes where we've gone, oh my gosh, that was hard. But you know what? We've learned from it. We've grown. And I think sometimes because something's hard, we think we shouldn't be in that space. Sometimes the hard stuff is where we grow the most.
But Cindy, that's interesting what you're saying, because when I'm listening to what you're saying, I mean, it's like recalibrating your plans as you move along. I mean, because you're learning so much in the process, that you might think, okay, I've got to achieve this, at this point in time. But as you're going down the line, you find new knowledge, new experiences, other people that come into play. And, that also recalibrates okay, I'm going to achieve it, but I got a different route to get to it, or maybe a slightly adjusted route, But I like the concept, and Kolya made mention of it, like she's studying. I mean, the whole concept of continuous development, continuous studying, empowering yourself, and continuous learning, and the learning can be in various forms, or rather, like you said, there's so much out there, from Regent offering their programs to short courses, to stuff online, to TED Talks, and tons and tons of it is free. I mean, you don't have to pay for it. So I think it's people need, or rather we need, to continuously have that development in ourselves, whatever it is. I mean, whatever is your passion, if you like gardening, I mean, why not be, the best of it, or the best example of being or the best, or rather what they call excellence in what you do. So how can you become the best gardener that nobody sees anything? You see it for yourself and you're happy, but you're contented, because if somebody else sees it, they'll say, oh, that's really rubbish, But like for you, that's great, And so that concept of your own self-fulfillment in achieving your stuff and constant learning. So I'm picking that up also as you speak.
Absolutely. I'm not a big fan of contentment. I do believe that we should be striving to try and, there's 3 types of goals: be, do, and have. So it's who do I want to be, what do I want to have, and what am I going to do? And I think it is important to constantly be shaking things up and creating excitement in our lives. My husband always teases me because I'm always inspired by new goals. So somebody will say, I'm going to, let's just use an example, I'm going to see the Northern Lights. And I'll say, I've always wanted to do that, even if something's brand new. So I think it's quite exciting to fall in love with the process of goal setting, and to take that lid off your own potential. And the lid, a lot of people talk about the glass ceiling. I don't believe that necessarily is the case. We put that lid on. And I want to tell you a story about that I heard years ago, and it really resonated with me. This woman went into a pet shop, and it was quiet, and the owner, she saw there was a sign, sharks for sale. So she walked in and she said to the owner, oh my gosh, tell me about the sharks, because I come from Durban. This is in the States. And she said, we've got sharks in Durban. And so he said, okay, let me show you. And in a sort of like smallish tank, there was a small shark. And then he showed her further down the store, there was a medium-sized tank with a medium shark. But further down, right at the end, from one expanse to the other, was this huge shark. And he said, you know what? I've played God with these sharks. He said, they all came to me as babies, and I chose. A shark grows to the size of its tank. I chose this one would be small, this one would be medium, this one would be large. And to me, that's such a beautiful analogy for life. How many of us have decided, nobody did it to us. Or yes, we can blame our teachers, we can blame our society, we can blame everybody else. But, we all know that if we want to be successful, 2 things we never do is blame and excuses. We own it. We own it. We take full responsibility for where we are now and where we're going. Because, we could all sit there and say, well, the looters have derailed my goals, and, the economy is ruining my dreams. Well, actually, you'll probably find it's got very little to do with that and everything to do with you and your response. So there's a thing called a circle of concern, and then another thing called a circle of influence. And I find when I'm coaching people, a lot of people will come to me with the excuses. I didn't lose weight, or I didn't get out of debt, or I didn't do the sales calls, whatever it is, because, and then they'll tell me about something external to them that happened. I was too demotivated by, I just ran out of time. It's just the way I am. I'm just not confident enough to do this. These are actually things that, how can you say that's the way I am? It's the way I was. I'm a human. I can change. It takes a lot of work, but I can change. And, you know, and I think so often we rely on those excuses and on the blaming of others. So I think it's so important to set exciting goals, to keep up to date with them every year. Is this goal still relevant? Do I still want to achieve that? Maybe it's something I wanted to do when I was 15, but now everything's different. And maybe sometimes due to circumstances, we actually can't achieve those goals. I might have been happily married, and I wanted to do something with my husband, and then something happens and he's no longer there. It had nothing to do with me. You know, and sometimes I might wanted to run the marathon, but I have a car accident and I can't run. So I think we've got to be flexible. We've got to be kind to ourselves when we don't get it right. But we've also got to be hard enough on ourselves to know when we are buying our own excuses and when we are using external things, because we're using that circle of concern. Oh, I'm so worried about everything. Well, today I'm worried about a lot of stuff, but today this is my little action plan. These are the little tasks I'm doing to take me closer to my goal, to make me proud.
Absolutely.
Cindy, we need to almost end, and I really want to end on a high note and just ask you to, if you could, in 5 steps, tell me what is a SMART goal and how do I set it?
Okay. I love SMART goals because you know how often I meet people and they tell me this, Dr. Blom, I'll say, what do you want in life? And they say, often, this is a common one, I want to be successful and happy. And I'm going, okay, that's not a goal, that's a wish. Because if it was a goal, how will you know when you're successful? How will you know when you're happy? So a SMART goal is specific. So if I said I want to be successful, let's use that as specifically, I want my business to make 500,000 Rand profit at the end of February next year. Or I want to take on 3 new key accounts to the value of 500,000 Rand. That's specific. Then it needs to be measurable. Like I could say, I want to save money. That's my goal. Well, how much, you know? Because at the end of the year, I might say I save 10 Rand. It's a goal, you know. So I might say I want to save 300 Rand a month, and by the end of the year, I'm going to have 3,600, which I'm going to put into an offshore account. They've got to be achievable. Like that person who says, I want to be a millionaire in 5 years, but is not doing anything. Is that really achievable? Maybe it is, but do I know the little steps along the way that will get me to that? So it's got to be achievable, but it's also got to be a little bit stretch. We want it to scare us a little bit, because if it doesn't scare us, we're not that excited. And then it's got to be realistic. R is for realistic. So, and it's got to be relevant. So, you know, it's got to be my goal. I can't have your goal. I won't be excited by that. And then T is for tangible or time-based. So, yeah, you know, one day, how many of us do that? We live on someday I'll. Have you heard of that place? I don't know if any of you live there. Someday I'll do this. Someday I'll do that. So yeah. Time-based, you know, I want to be successful. Well, when? Well, actually, by the end of 2027, December, I want to have my business. I want to be financially free, and that means having X in the bank, and it's got to be tangible, something I can see and feel. So yeah, I think for me, you know, it's important. It's so easy to do all the work, and we leave out the measurements, we leave out the excitement, you know, and then every week asking ourselves, how am I going to do that this week? What are the little steps? Remember, you eat an elephant one little bite at a time. So yes. if the goal's an elephant and it's overwhelming, what's the little step today? What's the little step tomorrow? And, you know, before you know it, you look back and you go, my gosh, look how far I've come. I've done so well. And then, you know, pat yourself on the back when you do the hard stuff. Do the hard stuff early in the day. Because you know how often we eat frogs every day and we think, oh, I've got this frog, but I'm not going to eat it today. I'll eat it tomorrow. At the end of the month, there's 30 frogs. Eat one a day. That's all we can handle. Yeah.
Goodness. As always, Cindy, it is inspirational to listen to you, and your enthusiasm always just comes through so clearly. And, you know, I just always feel better after having engaged with you. I think there's one more. Okay. That really brings us, unfortunately, to the end of our session again. And we will probably make this webinar, the recording available. So if people do want to engage with it at a later stage, then they will be welcome to do so. So I just want to say thank you very much to all three of you. I think it has worked incredibly well, you know, to also bring in Corlia on board, because you have to know yourself in order to know the goals that you can achieve. And that's fabulous. And thank you, Dr. Asvat, for your engagement and for your humor in keeping us on track. And Cindy, thank you very much once again for all your time and wisdom that you spend with us. We appreciate it enormously. Let's just quickly see. Yeah, everybody's just saying thank you and take care. And that's maybe the last word that we should have. Please take care, please stay safe, and look after yourselves, and let's meet again shortly. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Take
Thank
care.
you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.